What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Derek and Cody, with you as always. Guys, we want to talk about a 2026 offseason topic already because now everyone is talking about this because of the Daniel Jones announcement as starting quarterback for week one of the Indianapolis Colts. But before we do that, just want to say this episode is sponsored by FanDuel. Don't know if FanDuel has odds yet on if the Indianapolis Colts are taking a quarterback in 2026. But if they did, you guys certainly should let us know what you guys think of it. But head over to FanDuel. They have a lot of great things for you guys to bet on over there. Win totals, player totals, scores, everything. So make sure you guys check that out. But guys, we got to talk about this because now that Anthony Richardson is going to be sitting on the bench for this year, barring an injury that happens to Daniel Jones, we're going to see whether or not the Indianapolis Colts this offseason will be going for another quarterback. Now, when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts, Cody, with this announcement, what is your opinion now on the Indianapolis Colts potentially getting a quarterback in the draft in 2026? Do you think this move increases that possibility or no?
Well, so I guess I'll start here before I talk about that just for a second. I think what it does, Derek, is it puts a lot more, like there was already a lot of pressure on you to win, but making this move is a win now move, in my opinion, right? I look at this and I say, hey, Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, this is more on a Steichen decision, obviously, but you know what I mean? Like this is it for him. Like a lot of people have been saying, like he is on the hot seat. Like he has a lot to prove this year after how last year went. And you choose Daniel Jones because you think he is the guy that can get you to where you need to go over Anthony Richardson because of all those things, right? So I think it definitely puts you in a spot where, not that the pressure wasn't already high, but you have to win now. Like you have to make the playoffs at a bare minimum, Derek, at this point to save your job if you're Shane Steichen, right? So, and if that doesn't happen, say you win 7, 8, 9 games, you're around the same where you were last year, or you're worse, then I don't think Shane Steichen's going to be the one calling the shots, and Chris Ballard, same way. I don't think that's going to be the case. And so when it comes to that, I think it's very likely, even if Daniel Jones, say Daniel Jones is even average, say he's average, I still think you need to go look for your quarterback because there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this year's draft, at least right now. Obviously, a lot can change between now and, April. A lot can change. But when you look at this class, there's a lot of potential guys coming out that could become franchise quarterbacks. A lot of prospects that you're like, if they do well this year, they could be developed into a really, really good franchise quarterback, right? So all that to say, if those guys get fired, even if Daniel Jones is decent, whoever's going to be the new general manager next year, they're not tied to any of these quarterbacks. They're not tied to Anthony Richardson. Their job, success, or failure is not tied to anybody who was currently on the roster. It's just not. They get a potential for a complete fresh restart on the roster. And whatever they want to do, they can. I mean, they really can. So in regards to the quarterbacks, even if you were to say, you're like, Daniel Jones was just fine for us, let's bring him back for another year. Let's just bring him back. We know he can at worst be an average starter. Like he can at least keep us steady. I still think you draft a quarterback. I do. I still think that GM will want to start things off right and go and get a quarterback. I think, why wouldn't you? Like Daniel Jones, even if he's average, reality is, Derek, Daniel Jones is already, 28? So he's not like the youngest guy in the world either. And if he's average, I'm like looking at that and I'm saying you still need to get that guy long term to be potentially your guy for the next decade. You just do. You need to do it. I mean, we've seen teams do it that even have average quarterback play. Heck, we saw Kansas City with Alex Smith. Remember that? They had Alex Smith. He led them to the playoffs, Derek, and they still went and got their guy. So whoever the GM
that's all you knew you could get it from him.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So in order to actually truly win for the long term, you need to find your guy. And with the Anthony Richardson experience, you swung, and it seems like you've missed. It seems like you've missed. But whoever the new GM is, they're going to have an opportunity, and I think they need to do what it takes if you're in a position to trade up if you have to, or potentially just draft a kid wherever you're at. I think you got to do that if you're the general manager for the Indianapolis Colts next year. So there's obviously a lot of factors that can play into this, because who knows? Is it Chris Ballard? Is it somebody else next year? That's going to determine a lot, I think, in regards to a quarterback. But I do think from a potential franchise quarterback aspect, you need to draft a quarterback next year. I do.
All right. So again, Cody coming right out and saying it, that the Indianapolis Colts should probably be looking to get their next franchise guy after this season. Ultimately, I think the big thing behind this is it's all going to depend on how this season goes. I mean, it really is going to come down to it, Cody. I will say one thing. I think you and I both can agree on this. Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard especially should have no say in what next quarterback we get. I think that we both can agree on that those two should probably take a back seat and maybe no seat at all when it comes to who this team's next quarterback should be. Is that fair in saying?
Well, yeah, because look, you drafted this kid, Anthony Richardson. You thought you did your homework, and all of a sudden, there's even more concerns than you originally thought, right? So I don't want those guys evaluating a quarterback. Like, they tried, they had their chance, and they whiffed. It's not been good. There's been far more than the injuries, Derek. There's been a lot more that apparently is happening, so that you've literally now, your franchise quarterback through 3 years has played in 15 games, Derek. The kid you took that high in 2023, he hasn't even played a full season in 3 seasons now. That's not good. That's not okay. So I don't trust those guys to evaluate a quarterback. I don't at this point. They had their shot. And yeah, if you get the opportunity again, I don't think it will be, potentially Steichen and Ballard, unless the season goes amazing and they prove us completely wrong. They win 11, 12 games. They win the division maybe. Unless they do that stuff, which, mind you, they haven't done in the 3 years they've been here. Now going into year 3, I guess, for Steichen. Unless they do something wild and completely exceed expectations, I'm pretty confident, Derek, that there will probably be some new people calling the shots and evaluating a new quarterback.
Again, I've been saying it to Colts Nation all this week. Since Andrew Luck retired in 2019, you've had so many opportunities as a GM to, get the quarterback that you wanted. In 2020, you could have, kept that first round draft pick that you had, traded up, and tried to get either Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert. Doubt it would have happened, but you could have tried. Instead, you went with Phillip Rivers. And then the next year after that, you went with Carson Wentz instead of trading up back into the top 15 to try and get either Justin Fields or different kind of quarterback there. And then obviously, like I said, in 2023, you had the option when you had the 4th overall pick to try to trade up to the number 1 overall pick because the Chicago Bears were selling it. And you could have made a deal with them, put your long-term future on the line to go and get the guy that you knew was going to put you in the best position going forward. One of those being Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. You chose neither of them. You chose to settle. You chose to go with Anthony Richardson, and it ain't working out for you right now. So, again, the complacency and the unwillingness to go above and beyond to try to figure this quarterback situation out is going to be a permanent stain on Chris Ballard and now on Shane Steichen, because Steichen was also one of the guys that was pounding for Anthony Richardson when they drafted him as well. So, that's a major issue on the time as well. So, yeah, when you look at this certain situation, I just think that there needs to be another group of people, targeting this situation. And you're right, Cody. Like when I go back to again what this season does, I mean, I will never root for losses, but a lot of people want the Colts to lose because you want to be in a position, if you're the Indianapolis Colts, to have a chance to get one of these quarterbacks going into this draft this next year, because you have about 5 or 6 of them that look better than Anthony Richardson already at this moment in time, right? Even if you exclude Arch Manning from it, which, again, I don't think Arch Manning will come out in this draft, but, Arch Manning did say we'd take it a day at a time, and we'll see how I feel at the end of the season. So, I mean, again, if he balls out at Texas and they get close to winning a national championship again, and he shows to everyone that, he is definitely one of the top quarterbacks in the league once again and should be a contender for the number 1 overall pick, then I don't see a reason why he wouldn't. But there's always a chance he stays behind. But you still have guys like Klubnik. You have Sellers. You have Nursberger. You have other guys out there. You have Allard. You have all these different names that are going to be guys that can potentially take you to the promised land. And it's really going to ultimately come down to this situation. And Cody, I will say this. If the Indianapolis Colts did find themselves in a situation where they're kind of in the middle of the pack, like what they're at right now, I don't know if Ballard would be willing enough to, make the necessary move to get the Colts where they need to be, right? If you have the option to go and get a quarterback, I don't know if Chris Ballard will pull the trigger if given the opportunity for some reason or another, and Carly somehow, some way doesn't fire him and Steichen after this season. I don't think if Chris Ballard is even given the chance to go and get one, I don't think he will. I really don't think he will. That's kind of just my mentality about this team now, is that I just don't think Ballard will do everything that it takes.
That's been my biggest problem with Chris Ballard, is he's way too passive, like you said, Derek. It's like he had so many opportunities, like you said. First off, you didn't even mention, like, he could have gotten Matthew Stafford too, right? Like, we heard the Colts were in that. But no, it's too steep. Chris Ballard, I'm going to call it, Derek. Chris Ballard was a coward for years in getting a quarterback that actually would make a difference. And I think that was his problem, is he wasn't willing, like you said, to do what it takes to go and get a guy. They liked guys, they were in things, but they never made it happen. And then, even with Anthony Richardson, we knew it was going to be a risk, but again, you settled. And that's what, to me, that just defines the Chris Ballard era. It really, for me, in a nutshell, is settling. Being okay with being decent or average. That's been the Chris Ballard mantra. Like, you're not willing, for a long time, not willing to pay free agents to come to Indianapolis to improve the team, and not willing to do what it takes to be aggressive and go get your guy. You're just not willing to do that. And I hate to tell you, but you got to be aggressive sometimes. Or if you're not, you're going to be in the same spot that you found yourself in after Andrew Luck retired. And we're here again in quarterback purgatory. And frankly, it's Chris Ballard's fault, because he didn't do what it takes to get the right guy. He didn't. Now, he took a swing, but at that point, Derek, you had no choice, did you? All the other 2 quarterbacks, they were gone.
Yeah.
It was either Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, and neither quarterback has been a good option for you. So you backed yourself in this corner, and you weren't willing to do what it takes. And that's what's so frustrating about it is, yeah, you did that, but you really had no choice at that point. Like, you had to go take the risk, with the quarterback. But it was a risk that I think could have been avoided for a better risk down the line. And that's just unfortunately where we're at. And that's why we're sitting here now talking about another quarterback, because I just felt like you've just been way too passive in the past. You cannot afford to be passive when you're trying to find your franchise quarterback. You can't be. You can't afford to be. Because if you are, you're going to find yourself in the similar spot the Colts find themselves here in almost a decade of Chris Ballard now. Same spot. Same spot. Outside of 1 year with Andrew Luck. Same spot. It's almost like just Groundhog Day every single time with this GM. It's just frustrating, man. And yeah, he was aggressive this offseason, but Derek, it shouldn't be to this point where it's year 9 and you're finally making any sort of actual splashes to help improve your roster. It's just not like it's way too late for that. You've backed yourself in this corner with this young kid, Anthony Richardson, and Daniel Jones. And you're going to have to lie in that bed if you're Ballard and you're Steichen. And that's just what it is, Derek. So it's frustrating for fans to watch just feels like similar decisions, bad decisions just continue to happen and nothing changing. And I think that's why fans are just tired, man. Fans are tired of the same crap. And so I understand, like you, I'm not going to root for losses. I don't think I could ever actually do that. But I understand the fans who say, I want a hard reset. And I would agree with that in certain ways. Like if a hard reset comes, I'm fully prepared for it, man. Yeah. I'm fully prepared for it at this point because something has to change because nothing really has for a long time.
And it's kind of unfortunate because like you were talking about earlier, where if the Indianapolis Colts do like semi-decent this year, say they win 9-10 games, which I think a lot of fans will tell you that's not feasible. But I mean, Cody, we've seen this team win 8-9 games every year with even below average quarterback play for a good chunk of it. This roster is well built enough to do that. And what's sad is like we get to that spot, you kind of put yourself at a disadvantage there because I don't know what you can do to get into a position to be able to, get a quarterback of your choosing, right? Say like the Colts finish or like they're somewhere in like 15 or not even that, like say they're like, 17 to 22-ish, in that area. It's going to be really freaking difficult if you have a potentially new GM and head coach, potentially, and you have to sit there and say, how in the world are we going to get a new quarterback? Like, what's the plan if they make it to that point? Do they fire Chris Ballard and Steichen? And even if they do or don't, what do you do with Anthony Richardson? Is he just going to sit the bench? Are you going to trade him away? Are you going to re-sign Daniel Jones if they get 10, 11 wins this year? Make the playoffs? Like, what is it about? So it's hard right now for me to sit here and say that the Indianapolis Colts will be taking a quarterback in the 2026 NFL draft because ultimately right now you don't really know what you're walking into with this season. And whether or not a lot of Colts fans want to admit it, I don't think this team is going to only win 5 games this year. I don't really. Yeah, barring the 2022 collapse where we saw Frank Reich completely lose the locker room, practically gave up, your quarterback is trash, your offensive line was trash, and all these other things, and everything went away. That's the only way I can see it happening. Because, I mean, let's admit it, the offensive line is better now. Even with the struggles that we know it's been having in the offseason, it's better than what it was in 2022. Matt Ryan, I don't think he would be as terrible. I mean, he's about probably at the same level as Daniel Jones is right now. But you have you have just as good of a defense now as you did back then. I honestly would say that our defense is better now than what it was in 2022. So it's kind of hard for me to sit here and say that, we'd have another epic collapse like this unless you start losing a bunch of games early and then guys start doing the whole, speaking out to the media saying that, I need to be out of here. I hate this organization, everything like that. It's just kind of hard for me to think that, we would be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year because, overall the roster is actually not poorly built.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing is like the roster now, when you actually decided to make some moves, like you actually have some talent on it, like you said. Like I think this defense has a potential if they stay healthy. I think they could be a French top 10 defense. I do. I think they could be a front half defense in the league easily. There's a lot more into that as well. Like the offense, I don't know about the offense, man. I mean, on one hand, you saw what they did with Gardner Minshew, right? Like, okay, maybe you can do something similar there. But on the other hand, Daniel Jones is one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL last year. I mean, both these guys were, him and Anthony Richardson. So you're like, okay, what could it look like, right? Could we have a lot of those games like 2022, right, where your defense wins you a couple, but your offense is just so bad because of the quarterback play and a couple other factors where it's just, like the bottom just falls out of it, right? Could that be a factor? Again, 2022 was a special kind of bad, but could it be bad enough where you're in a better position than, say, you win 7-8 games? Maybe you win 5 or 6. Like maybe that's more of the place you're looking at to land, maybe. And then maybe you trade up for a quarterback or something like that. Heck, we've seen quarterbacks be taken in the teens before that have worked out as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be very fascinating, Derek, to see how it does play out, like you said. Again, it's hard to say one way or another, although I would think unless something crazy happens, you're probably going to be having a new GM. And if that's the case, the new GM's probably going to want to find a quarterback in the draft. But again, so much has to happen or not happen for that to be the case. And we just don't know right now, as we're not even in September yet, we don't fully know what that's going to look like. And we'll just have to see as the season goes on. And, does the season go well? Is it more of a 2023 season or a 2022 season, right? We don't know. Yeah. We'll have to see. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating, man. I just don't really know what to expect for this team. And I could see it going a lot of different ways, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And, the whole time during the season now, we have to wonder, like, how is that going to impact the future of this team going forward? Because honestly, Cody, we're walking into this year now with a lot more questions than answers. And it feels like that. It feels like that for every season when it comes to Indianapolis Colts. But this season now, it's there's a lot more of them that are happening right now. So we're going to see how it plays out. But again, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts. Should the Colts be all in on a new quarterback in 2026? Or is there just way too much to tell right now? But that'll do for this one. Thank you guys again so much. And as always,
this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you're looking for a sports book this football season, be sure to visit America's #1 sports book, FanDuel, today.